here today to stand with the NAACP and other social justice allies to pay tribute to the thousands of women and men who marched on Washington 50 years ago. The March for Jobs and Freedom was indeed a pivotal moment in our nation's history. But the lasting power of the March on Washington wasn't about a single day. It was about a movement, about thousands of people who cared enough to stand up and be counted. The power of the March on Washington was about thousands of women, men, and young people from all walks of life coming together in solidarity to demonstrate their support for freedom and basic human rights, not just for one day, but for every single day. This, my friends, is why I am so honored to be with you today, because you have stood up day after day to let the folks in charge of our legislature and the governor's mansion know North Carolina is better than this, and we are not going back. You have participated in civil disobedience, joined hands at Moral Mondays, come out every single time we've asked you to rally for women's health, attend hearings, and stand for hours listening to floor debate. You have let our champions know we have their backs. And our champions, like our Wake County delegation, Senators Josh Stein and Senator Dan Blue, Representatives Deborah Ross, Greer Martin, Rosa Gill, Dwayne Hall, Darren Jackson, and Yvonne Lewis-Hawley and Bobby Richardson have stood strong. And friends, because I've seen you in the halls of the legislature and on the sidewalks in front of the legislative building and on the streets in front of the governor's mansion, I want to thank you in particular for the extraordinary fight you've helped us wage this session to protect women's health and lives. During the 4th of July week, when legislative leaders thought no one was paying attention, they took a bill that had nothing to do with health care and filled it with restrictions on safe and legal abortion, and rammed it through a committee and onto the Senate floor in one evening because they thought no one was paying attention. But they were wrong. They were wrong. With 12 hours notice, my friends, you and 600 other women's health advocates like you took the legislature by storm. You filled the Senate gallery, spilled out into the rotunda and the streets in front of the legislative building and stood strong. And you didn't stop showing up even when they held meetings, as they did repeatedly with no public notice. Hundreds of you came out as you saw a tweet, and you made clear day after day that North Carolinians believe a woman has the right to make deeply personal health decisions about her body without politicians interfering. You made clear that North Carolinians understand the decision to adopt, raise a child, or end a pregnancy is best left to a woman, her family, and her faith, and not her North Carolina legislator or her governor. And you made crystal clear to Governor McCrory that we will hold him accountable for breaking his promise to North Carolinians by signing into law sweeping restrictions on access to safe and legal abortion. From day one to the final wee hours of this legislative session, the majority in charge, with the governor's full consent, has done everything in their power to strip North Carolinians of their basic civil rights and freedoms we fought for and won over the last half-century. They denied health care coverage through Medicaid expansion to 500,000 uninsured North Carolinians. They stripped city and county employees of reproductive health coverage despite courageous protests from local elected officials. And in the final days of the legislative session, with only one day of debate, they passed the most restrictive voting rights bill in our nation. And Governor McCrory, he wasted no time signing that into law. Shame. But let me tell you why they did what they did at the end of the session, using underhanded secret tactics despite having a majority that could pass any vote they wanted to in the light of day with plenty of public scrutiny. They did it that way because they know, like we do, that they are fighting against a tide of change. They are clinging to the past, fighting against democratic change, fighting against a North Carolina more diverse, more committed to social justice, and more together than ever before. They may have a supermajority in the legislature today, but we have a supermajority of North Carolinians on our side, and we are not going back. North Carolina is better than that. Together, day after day, we will lift up our voices and say, forward together. Step back. Forward together. Forward together.